How's it going, guys? I'm Mike Dwyer from the Bunker Recordings and BetterMixes.com. And today I'm going to talk about why you probably don't need that plugin that just went on sale that you got the email about this morning. I know it's really easy to think that if I just had this one more plugin, my mixes would be amazing. I used to feel this way all the time. I always thought I was just one piece of gear away from my mixes sounding a million times better. And I still sometimes feel this way. Again, when I get an email about a new plugin that just came out that promises to change everything. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you should never buy new plugins or new gear. I own a ton of plugins and I don't regret buying the vast majority of them. But I just want to show you that if you're just starting out and you don't have a lot of stuff yet, you can still get great results. So I decided to show you how to mix drums using only the stock Pro Tools plugins. So first, let's do a quick before and after of where we started and where we ended up. So this is where we started. And here's after. So quite a big difference. I'll admit it's not the best drum mix I've ever done. I'll also admit that it was a lot less fun mixing with just the stock plugins, but I still ended up with pretty good results. So let me walk you through what I did real quick. First, let's take a look at our kick drum. This is our raw kick track. We kind of lucked out because that doesn't sound too bad right off the bat. So first we've got an EQ here. We're boosting a whole bunch of high end. We've got a shelf at 4K, boosting about 3 decibels. And then just a little under 4K, we're boosting 6 decibels with a really wide bandwidth. Then we've got a couple mid-range cuts. We've got 3.5 decibels at 600 hertz, and then 6 decibel cut at 350 hertz. Then I've just got a real small boost at 85 hertz. We've got a high pass at 35 and a low pass at 9K. Just cutting out some of the extra cymbal bleed at the very top and some super low end subby stuff that we don't need. So let's just do a before and after of this whole EQ. So that's already sounding a whole lot better. Next I've got a gate, or rather an expander, because we're only doing 9 decibels of reduction. But let's hear that. So just trying to cut out a little bit of that snare hit in between the kicks and a little bit of cymbal. So we've got super fast attack with look ahead on, a fairly fast release. Like I said, we're bringing it down about 10 decibels here. So not completely cutting it out because that was just sounding a little unnatural. Up next, we have our compressor. Just doing a 2-to-1 ratio here. I just didn't like the way this compressor sounded on kick with the higher ratios. Got kind of a medium slow attack and a really fast release. And let's see how much compression we're doing. So just a couple decibels, not a whole lot. Let's do a quick before and after of that. Just bringing out a little extra attack. Now I'm using the Pro Tools Lo-Fi plugin here, just to add a little bit of saturation and to kind of round off the transient a little bit. So I'm just using the distortion knob here and I'm at 0.7. So let's hear that. So just adding some beef and thump. If you saw my video a couple weeks ago about using saturation on the snare drum, this is kind of the same concept here. And then finally, I've got one more EQ. Just after our dynamics processing, I felt like we needed just a little more shaping. So I've got a 5 decibel cut here with a fairly narrow Q at 500 hertz. Got a tiny little boost here, just 1 decibel at 100 hertz, just for a little extra thump. Then I've just got a little mid-range shaping here. I've got a pretty wide 3.5 decibel boost at 2K. Then a little bit of a narrower cut, also 3.5 decibels at 1.5K. So let's hear what this EQ is doing. So just cleaning up a little bit. Now let's take a look at our snare. So again, we're starting with EQ. We've got some crazy curves going on here. So first we're high passing up at 165, just to get rid of all the junk we don't need below that. And then I've got a really narrow boost here of 4 decibels right at 200 hertz, which is just about where the fundamental of the snare is. So that's just bringing out all the body of the snare. Then I've got a small dip here at 400 hertz, just to kind of clean up the mid-range a bit. Then we've got a 3 decibel boost at 2K, just boosting some mid-range presence. Then a big old 7 decibel boost at 5K. So let's check this out. Then we're following that up with our gate again. Again, got a super fast attack with look ahead and kind of a medium release. And we're only bringing it down 8 decibels. Again, if you hard gate this, it just sounds super unnatural. I'll show you that real quick. But if we just do about 8 decibels like we were before, it helps to bring down all of the cymbal bleed in between while still letting the drum ring out a bit. Then we've got our compressor again, 4-to-1 ratio. medium slow attack, fairly fast release. Let's see how much compression we're doing. So it looks like we're hitting anywhere between 4 and 6 decibels of compression. Then again, we're using lo-fi. This time we've got the distortion knob cranked up to 1.7. Let's hear that. Yeah, that's really helping us on our snare there. And then once again, I've got another EQ after that, just doing a little extra shaping. There were a couple frequencies here that were bugging me. We've got 2.8K and 1K. And then I was just giving a little more 200 hertz. I guess I just didn't boost enough in that first EQ. And a tiny dip at 300 just to kind of clean up and help shape that low end boost there. Let's check this out. So again, pretty subtle. Like I said, there were just a couple frequencies that were bugging me. Here, I'll boost these real quick so you can hear what I was cutting out. So yeah, just tucking those out. Then moving on to our snare bottom. We've got our gate again, fast attack, medium release. This time we're cutting out a bit more with 16 decibels. Then we're following that up with EQ. Again, we've got our high pass about 165, then a huge boost around 200. Again, that fundamental of our snare. Little low mid cut 400, fairly big cut at 2K, just getting rid of some of that rattiness. And then at 5K, we've got a little boost there just to bring in some top end. Let's hear that. We've got our compressor again, kind of medium fast attack and a fast release. 6-to-1 ratio. Okay, and we're hitting that really hard. Looks like maybe 14 decibels of compression. Just really nailing that into place. And then got another EQ. So again, just a couple frequencies that were bugging me. Pretty small cut at 3K and then a huge cut at 1K. Again, I think it's just a little more rattiness that I was hearing. Yep, so just cleaning that up. So now let's hear both of our snare mics together. Now we'll take a look at our overheads. First up, we've got our EQ. We've got a high pass up to 165. Just cutting a lot of the low end kick drum stuff out of there. In this particular track, that wasn't helping our sound. And we've got a little boost at 200 hertz, again, bringing out that snare drum fundamental. Small cut at 750 to clean up the mid-range a little bit. Little cut at about 3K. There's probably just a little bit of harshness there in the cymbals. And then a small boost around 5K for a little brightness. And we're following that up with our compressor again. 4-to-1 ratio, medium slow attack, fast release. So we're really just using that to knock the snare drum down. Then we've got our room mics. We've got a big boost at 170. That's probably once again bringing out a lot of that snare fundamental. Small cut at 750 again, and at 3K again. So let's hear that. And we've got our compressor, 4-to-1 ratio, medium attack, kind of a medium fast release. And let's see how hard we're hitting that. So we're hitting that pretty hard. Again, maybe 10 decibels or so. Just getting a little excitement out of the room mics there. And then I have 2 reverbs set up on our snare drum here. First is Snare Plate. So for that, we're using deverb. Let me solo the snare so we can hear it. I've got it on the large plate setting at about 1.5 seconds. Then I'm using our EQ to sculpt it a little bit, cutting out some super low stuff and some super high stuff. Got a little cut around 3K just to get rid of that kind of fake digital reverb kind of sound. And there's a little muddiness in the lower mid-range, so just cutting some of that out, and let's hear that. Then our second one is kind of a gated thing. Again, we've got deverb on the non-limb setting. Let's check that out. So yeah, sounds pretty funky when you crank it up, but it kind of adds a little bit of length to the snare drum when you have it tucked in. And then we're EQing that again. Very similar moves to last time. And let's hear it with both of those. And finally, we have our drum buses here. First, we've got our main one. We've got our compressor on that, a 1.5-to-1 ratio, so pretty gentle. Medium slow attack, fastish release. I'm just doing like 1 or 2 decibels of compression, just really light, just kind of gluing that together. And then I've got this Air Lo-Fi, which is different from the Avid Lo-Fi, but still a stock Pro Tools plugin. And this has a clipper built in, so I just cranked that up a little bit, and then I dialed the mix back, but just to chop off any sharp transients. You can see how much lower our meters are peaking with this on. Let me turn it on and off one more time and just watch here. And with it. So it's the same volume, but we're peaking 3 or 4 decibels lower, so just kind of gaining us some headroom. Then we've got our drum crush here. I'm sending all our tracks here at various levels. We're only sending a little bit of the rooms and the overheads and a bit more of the snare and kick. So let's check out what's actually getting to that bus. And let's crank that up for a minute. So first we've got our EQ. We're just gently high passing and low passing here, just to kind of make it a little more mid-focused since we're about to compress it really hard. Then we've got our compressor. We've got an 8-to-1 ratio, fairly slow attack, pretty fast release. We're doing like 16 decibels of compression, making it really, really snappy, getting a lot of that attack. And then we're going to kind of chop that attack off with this Lo-Fi plugin. We've got the distortion cranked up all the way to 4 this time. So that's just making it really beefy. So let me throw that back down and put it in with our main drum bus. And this is the final product. Like I said, probably not the best drum mix I've ever done. And some of these stock plugins are a little bit clumsy to use. But I just want to show you that you can get really good results with whatever you already have. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe. And be sure to head on over to bettermixes.com to grab your free copy of my Ultimate EQ cheat sheet.